If you're tired of arguing with strangers on the internet, try talking with one of them in real life.
Welcome to Back in America, the podcast.
This is part one of 2 episodes dedicated to the George Floyd mural. If you want to see a picture of the mural, go to the podcast website at backinamericatothepodcast.com. I am Stan Berthelot, and this is Back in America. The death of George Floyd, a black man killed by a Minneapolis police officer, has triggered protests against police brutality, police racism, and lack of police accountability. 3 days after Floyd's death, a group of artists painted a mural on the Cup Food building at the corner where George Floyd was killed on May 25th. The artists started at about 7 a.m. on May 28 and finished the mural at 5:30 p.m. the same day. Most of us have seen the image of the mural since almost every American TV station live streamed the George Floyd funeral, whose backdrop was a digital version of this mural. Inspired by this work, artists across the globe started producing similar tribute to George Floyd, and a digital database of such art has gathered a repository of 1,324 pieces of art so far. My guest today is one of the leading artists behind this iconic mural of George Floyd, a man who immigrated to the United States from Belize when he was 19. Today, at 45, he works as an elementary school behavioral specialist, and social justice art is his passion. Welcome to Back in America, Cadex Herrera.
Thank you very much, Stan. Thank you for having me.
Cadex, this mural that you produced with 2 other artists, Xena Goldman and Greta McLean, is your first mural. Tell me what went through your head when you got a call from Xena Goldman asking you to work on the mural. When did she call you? How much time did you have to prepare this work?
Xena Goldman had called me on Wednesday night. I had returned from joining the demonstrations on Wednesday evening. On Tuesday night, when the news started coming out and we all saw the length of the video that went viral, I went to downtown Minneapolis. That was Tuesday night to take some photography. I'm a photographer as well. And when I saw the movement, when I saw the people there, I put my camera down and decided to be a participant rather than an observer. I decided not to take any photographs and just joined the demonstrators that were there. And I just wanted to be a part of that. On Wednesday, I went back out again. And when I came back, I saw that I had a message from Xena. And she just posed one question to me, which was, do you want to paint the mural? I just said yes. I knew exactly where she was coming from. Then she said, I have a portrait here that I'm going to use, and I would like to see if you'd be interested in painting this mural with me. And she asked me to design something for it, and I said, of course. I got on it right away. I made a really quick sketch. Took me 3 minutes, and I sent it to her, and she looked at it, and she saw it, and she understood the idea right away, what I was trying to convey. And she's like, yes, this is it. This is perfect. This will work. And then I said, wait a few more minutes. Let me send you something more detailed, a little bit more elaborate. About half an hour later, I texted her back with another picture of the sketch of the actual realized idea that's now on the mural. And she said, yeah, that's perfect. Let's do it. Let's meet tomorrow morning, which was a Thursday at 7:00. And I said, I'm there. And once we got there, that's when I first met Greta. I did know her work as a muralist in the Twin Cities. Amazing work, just a fantastic artist. We decided, okay, this is the place where it happened. And Zena earlier asked different folks in the community if, where would it be appropriate to put a mural up on. And, um, everyone she asked said it should go in the building. It should go in the building. And so we looked at it, and it was a billboard of advertisement for produce and farm goods. If I remember right, it was this very uh, folk drawing of painting of a barn and a field, very elementarily done, and I believe a box of milk or something like that. So we looked at each other and said, "All right, let's get to work." We Greta brought out the primer, and we painted it. We painted over it right away, and then we started realizing the sketch on the wall.
So, two questions. Was it commissioned? How did that happen? How did did you get an agreement from the store to paint on it? Was it commissioned by the city?
No, it was not commissioned. This was it was a call to action. It was an immediate and spontaneous effort by Zena and I and Greta, and then also the other folks who came and joined us through the process. Typically, if you're going to paint a mural, you would go out to the community and get consensus and work with the community, apply for a grant, try to find a wall for permission, and then wait for that permission to be granted. And it's not guaranteed if you're going to get it or not. So this is not what we were doing. This wasn't a grant-based mural. And no, we did not ask permission from the owner of the building. We saw the wall, and we never even thought about or considered the owners, whoever owned the building's feelings. That wasn't part of at least of my process through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you spoke about it briefly, but how does the creative process works when you are in a group of artists? Who decide I'm going to do the portrait, I'm going to do the background? What happened? How does that work?
The original sketch that I created, the one that we worked off of for the mural, was fully realized. So the letter forms, they were the way they were. The only thing that was not in the sketch that I brought, I believe, was a realized portrait, because Zena was taking care of that part. When I showed them the sketch, we talked about the color choices. And initially, it was going to be a black background rather than the blue background. I started explaining to the three artists that we needed to be very conscious about the color use, because it's also as symbolic as all of the different elements in the piece. I explained why it was important to use a brighter color, like, for example, the sky blue that we use, and the yellows and the blacks. And I didn't have as much input on the way the portrait was treated. Zena has a very specific and peculiar and beautiful style of the way she applied paints. So we put our full trust in her process. The consensus came from sort of the explanation of what those colors meant and why they should be the way they came out being.
And if people are not familiar with the painting, could you take a minute to describe what it looks like?
Sure. This whole piece was painted freehand, and we didn't consider the dimensions. All I knew for the design is that it was rectangular. The whole piece is laid on top of a sky blue background that spreads from a light blue center to a dark blue outer. And then on top of that is a sunflower with a very large black seed pod. That's where we have the names of other Black Americans who have been killed by police. At the top of that flower is the word "Say Our Names," in reference to the Black Lives Matter movement, and also to honor and remember those who have been killed by police. And inside where the seeds are supposed to be, our names are their actual names. On top of that is George Floyd, treated in a very bold manner. It has a outline of purples and that sort of blends into that sky blue, and the inside of it is yellow. Part of that yellow, some folks have asked me why we use that yellow. So the Black Lives Matter movement has a color scheme in a lot of their material that is sent out, and it's sort of a little bit of, I think, their signature color, and it's yellow and black. And so that yellow was important to add there as a symbolic gesture to the cause. Inside the name are sort of abstract, very simply drawn human forms raising their fist, and that represents the community. And sort of the tones of the sky is coming through them as they're raising their fist inside the letter forms. At the foreground is the portrait of George Floyd, and then in front of that is the word "I can breathe now." Right before we completed the mural, Zena went out in the community, and the folks that were watching us through the process and through the day, and who also helped, what would be the most appropriate thing to put there. We didn't want to put words in George Floyd's mouth either, and so the consensus was from the people that were gathered there that "I can breathe now" was the most appropriate thing to put there. And so we asked a young man who was there if he would do us the honor of actually writing it. So none of the artists who were part of it actually wrote that last
Right.
statement.
Now, I would like you to help me understand and visualize. If you close your eyes and revisit that time on the day you did the painting, how was it? I mean, it must have been quite hectic, right? It was all over the news. That video that went viral, and you were there painting what has become a symbol of the movement. How was it during the day? Were you looking at each other? Were you speaking with each other? Were people talking to you?
Yes, all those things. Personally, it was an incredibly surreal experience that had all of the emotions built into them, and all the unexpected things. We started at 7 o'clock in the morning, again, just on adrenaline alone. We wanted to get this done. And one thing that we knew was that we had to get it completed that day. It needed to be finished that day. When we first got there, there was already people gathering around. But the memorial was starting to form. There was a lot of nerves, anxiety about, how it was going to turn out. An incredibly hot day. As an hour into it, people that were walking by came and asked us, "What are you doing? What's going on here?" And we explained to folks as like, "Oh, we're creating a memorial for George Floyd here, a mural. This is," and I would show them the sketch, and they right away they would get it, and their eyes would sort of light up, and they would go, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Thank you." And we start proceeding through the day. At 10 o'clock, there's a lot more people coming together. There was a film crew on the street corner that was watching us work, and I only was aware of them when they came towards us and asked us to do an interview. And then people started gathering and asking questions, and they would ask questions, and we would stop and say, "Yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what it means." And I remember there was this just beautiful grandmother who came at about 8 o'clock that morning, and she was one of the first people to ask us what we were doing. And she was so touched and so grateful, and her spirit really gave me a lot of energy. It just that idea of like, keep going, I support you in this. And she would leave, and then she would come back, and she did that throughout the day. And towards the later afternoon, she brought her grandchild, and she asked us if we would let her grandchild, paint on it. And we said, of course. So we gave the young person a brush, and they got on the, and throughout the day, people from the community would come and ask us if they could paint. And we're just like, yes, here's a brush, paint this part, paint that part, work on this, and they were sometimes very shy. They just wanted to add a touch here or there. At about 11 or so in the morning, Al Sharpton came to speak. He is a minister and part of the civil rights movement. Very incredibly moving speech, and that again was just giving me more energy. And folks were coming, do you guys need water? Do you need food? What do you need? An incredibly moving part for me, because again, it's just adrenaline driven. We're working as a team, it's very fluid. It was like we've worked for 20 years together. We all understood what our roles were. We were editing and taking stuff off and working on the color and taking things on, and so it was very, very fluid. And we all sort of understood that there was a bigger picture. Not to pun intended, I guess. It wasn't about us individually necessarily, but it was about this thing that we had created and now we wanted to complete. I was very involved in this and just totally focused and trying to absorb all of that energy that was coming. And I saw the Reverend Jesse Jackson, another civil rights leader, walk behind us, and he stopped, for a brief moment, and he looked at us working. And I wanted to say hello to him. He's been a hero of mine. And then he went to the corner where he was going to speak to a group of people. I went over to the corner where Jesse Jackson was speaking, and it was incredibly moving. And he did this call and response, with the crowd, and I was so pumped up. My heart was just full of emotion and sort of sadness, but also it was filled with this sense of hope, that there's this change happening. And so after he was done, I went back, and the rest of the day was just sort of that energy blur until it was all of a sudden we're done with him, we're stepping back, and we're going, wow, here it is.
Let's move forward in time. Now, 3 months later, your work is one of the most recognizable image that have come out of the protest raging around the world. You've been interviewed, as you said, countless time. What do you make of all that? Looking back at what happened 3 months ago and where it took you now, what lessons have you learned?
Going into this, creating this mural, never did it cross my mind that it would be that we would get the response that this mural received. I was honestly, again, acting upon action, acting on trying to show my support for the movement, and as an art activist, this is a lot of my work, is like speaking about these things and bringing awareness. I honestly thought it was going to be just locally, that it was something that we were doing for that community, that was for us as artists to show that specific community that we supported them, that we loved them, that we cared for George Floyd, and what happened to him should never ever happen to anyone again. The response of the greater community of Minnesota and then the world was totally, I did not see that coming. I did not expect it. And it was overwhelming. However, I never let it get to my head, because I always kept this in sort of my general thinking was that none of this is about me, Therefore, I did not let that sort of change my patterns and sort of my daily communications with people, my daily work that I have to do. It was something else that was happening separate from who I am as a person and as an artist. And whenever that was happening, then I took care of it, but then I moved right away to something else. I work as a behavioral specialist. And one of the things that we're trained to do, because we work with students with behavioral issues and a lot of things that happen in their lives. And sometimes they can get really personal and really try to hurt your feelings or hurt you physically. As a person who has to work with that every day, you have to always remember that you have to leave that at the door. So I use that training to sort of compartmentalize everything that was happening. So that is happening on the side, and I try my best to take care of it and balance it. But at the same time, I have a family, I have a profession, and I have my social work that I have to do. So
Did the sort of the fame that you got through this mural, did that help with your heart and your social media presence? And
yes, yeah, absolutely, it did. It was overwhelming, all the people and that reach out to me, thanking me and offering me, jobs and offering to pay me for prints of the mural and all of these things. And the group and decided from as soon as we were done with that mural that we were not going to commercialize or profit from it. And so we have not. And we have kept through to that, and that I'm really proud of that fact. But yes, it's definitely given me exposure, and which I'm thankful for. And it's also given exposure to my work, which is to me the most important thing. Is bringing awareness to the social injustices that are happening not only in this country but around the world,
yeah,
as well as
yeah.
environmental injustices.
And I read of a controversy that came up after you painted this mural, and going to quote here. Keno Ivor, the executive director of Black Table Art, said that the mural was created not by Black folks and without the process of engaging with Black people. And indeed, you are from Belize in Central America, and the two other artists are white American. Can you speak about that? Your work is a portrait of a Black experience. Isn't it a bit ironic? Couldn't it be misinterpreted maybe as cultural appropriation that you white people and I'm white too, so we are discussing a topic that would require maybe feedback from a Black American, but how does that make you feel?
I'm sure, and the criticism is valid, and I totally respect where they're coming from, and I honor their voice and their perspective. First of all, I am not white. I'm mestizo, originally from Belize, as I said. I have a mixed background ethnically, Spanish, Maya, and Afro-Caribbean. As part of the team, Zena contacted me, and I said, "Yes, I'll go work on this mural. Thank you for inviting me to it." I believe there was an open call to whomever was available to do it. Even though we didn't have a Black artist as part of the main group of artists. Like I mentioned earlier, there was people in the community that came and added to that mural.
Yes.
Not only Black, but Muslim and Hmong and white and you name it. There was just a whole diverse group of people that came and were there part of spectators watching us do it and supporting us and encouraging us to continue. And then also folks that just wanted to add a little bit of paint on the mural. And also, like I said earlier too, this was not a grant base. It was a call to action. It was just something that we did. There is, I believe, a space for conversation to talk about if there was appropriation of the events that happened. I didn't see myself as a Latino going to paint a mural of a Black man. I saw myself as an artist trying to raise awareness about an issue that's affecting people of color, Native Americans, immigrants, and Blacks in America. And the other thing was it never crossed my mind that we should have invited, specifically because to me, the whole project was people were coming in to contribute to this, right? And I didn't have a list of people that were coming or who was invited to it. And everyone that came by, and at least one of the artists who helped on the mural was just a person who just came by and asked us what we were doing. And they said, hey, can I help? And we said, yep. And the person went and grabbed their supplies and came back and started painting with us. And none of us really knew who this artist was. Anyone was welcome,
So Ken Evil is not really right when he said that it was done without the process of engaging with Black people. I mean, what you described from the start is really, yes, you led the project, you were the three artists, but you welcomed in anybody that wanted to take a brush and participate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, that asks the question, do you think that activist art need to be produced by the people it wants to serve?
I think that art should be created by artists. And if you are an activist in any way, you should speak your truth. My truth is art, my medium, and the causes that I'm trying to fight for. I think that there's strength in numbers, and the more solidarity we have with each other, because we're all sort of fighting for justice, I think that the stronger and the more amplified our voices will become.
Did this controversy left a bittersweet taste in you?
Absolutely not. I think that there's some level of distraction to this controversy. However, I am incredibly honored and proud of what we did that day, of how we came together, and the effect and that this mural has had on that community and the world. Like any public art, there's always going to be some controversy that surrounds it for different reasons. However, yes, I'm incredibly proud of that day.
And what is the status of the second mural that you were planning to do not far from the first?
Yes, so that mural was created as a group project. I was one of the painters, and we all collaborated, again, just with the artist. And it is hanging on Lake Street, I believe, and Chicago. It was completed. It took us about 5 days. Yeah, it's hanging now. And then I also went out and put up one other personal piece that I created as a sort of a small mural, that I just put on some of the boards that were used to cover up the businesses in Minneapolis.
Yeah. So the first mural was covered with black paint on August 19th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
What did it mean to you, and what's going to happen to the mural?
So right now we're speaking to different artists in the community as to what their decision is going to be about the mural, right? So initially we were accused of not including the community. Now that it was defaced, it opened up the opportunity to speak to the community as to what it is that they want to do with the mural. And as the artists, we have left it up to them to sort of tell us what to do next, whatever that might be. We're going to support it because it's their voice. And once I was done with that mural, one of the things that I said is like, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the people of this community, and whatever they ask us to do with it next.
What direction does it seems to be taking?
There's multiple. I still don't know exactly what they're planning to do with it. There's talk about fixing it, repairing the damage, and having some adjustments made, and having the community be involved in it too, and what artists should be invited to do it. And so, yeah.
I would like to understand a little bit about yourself. You came to this country when you were 19. Why did you come to the US? And when did you really feel that you wanted to be an activist artist?
I've always wanted to study art. When I was 19, I there wasn't that opportunity in Belize. It's very difficult for someone of low economic status to sort of even think about getting into higher level education. I did know that I had the opportunity in America, that there were schools, and I came up here to study. I wanted to study art, and that was my goal, was to pursue that, because I've always been interested in art, and I've always been pursuing it, ever since I was a small child. Um, I went to College of Visual Arts, that's in St. Paul, and I have a bachelor's in communication design, and I did a minor in photography as well. After college, I started working at Creative Arts High School as a media arts educator. I taught there for about 13 years, and then I lost my position. Since then, I've been a behavioral specialist for the District of St. Paul, and I help students with behavioral issues, and I use art as a way to calm students down, as a meditative sort of way of getting to students and working with them.
Hmm. So it seems that you've always been interested in art and has always wanted to be an artist. What about activism?
I grew up in Belize, and I was once we start getting information through news, you start looking at the world from our perspective. And Belize was typically is typically a peaceful country. We've never had any serious sort of revolutions or wars, but we've always had the threat of Guatemala invading Belize. So there was always a lot of anxiety over that, and sort of my political leanings and activism started from that, is trying to understand some of the issues with Guatemala. But then there was conflict and revolutions in all of around Latin America, including Guatemala, Chiapas, Honduras, Salvador, Nicaragua. And so, being surrounded by this as I was growing up, I was exposed to a lot of the atrocities that were being committed against especially indigenous people and farmers in these Latin American countries. And so, from very early on, I have always sort of leaned towards that type of human rights awareness. Once I graduated from college, I was doing typical art as everybody else. However, once I started using social media, like Instagram, where I started just posting art photography at the beginning, because I thought, hey, this is cool. I can showcase my work, and I was trying to encourage my students too to sort of use social media platforms to showcase their artwork and use those as galleries so anyone can see their work. As I was going through that process, I started thinking, well, what else can I do with this platform? And at the same time, there was Bush was in power, and there was a need to start speaking up and out about what I was seeing happening in my community and in our society. And I started evolving into sort of creating art that spoke to the things that I felt and that I saw that were injustices being created and human rights being violated. And that started, and then I started sort of creating artwork to honor people who had been leaders in different causes on civil rights, social justice, and then also started speaking out about the injustices that I saw and using art to do that.
Hmm. Okay. Finally, question I always ask in back in America is, what is America to you?
America still means freedom to me, despite of everything that's going on. Artists and activists and people who want to speak up and still have that opportunity. We might be losing it with the current administration, but it still means freedom and liberty, quote unquote, right? But the idea that I can be an artist and criticize and stand up and speak against these injustices without being too afraid of retributions, I think is a great thing, and that's something that you can casually do in other parts of the world. I'm grateful that I live in a country where that all sides are viewed and taken into consideration, and that you are to some extent free to speak and speak your truth.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Would you recommend our audience to read or watch any particular books or movie?
I've always been an incredible fan of Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite books is 100 Years of Solitude, and just amazing magical realism and an incredibly picturesque book. Yeah, it really helped me made tons of images, and I've read it many times over the course of my life. And there's this fantastic movie that I've just saw. It's called The Platform, and it's a Spanish movie. I believe it's on one of the streaming services. And it's a movie about this prison, and it's an allegory about class and our decisions that we as humans make to maintain our class and status, I suppose. But The Platform, check it out. It's a fantastic tale, and just one of the most amazing movies that I've ever seen is the movie Things I Like and Things I Don't Like. It's a French short, black and white. Things I like, things I don't like. An incredibly influential movie in my life as an artist. So check out that short.
Okay, absolutely. Cadex Herrera, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add before we hang up?
No, thank you for the opportunity to talk and tell the folks out there in your listening community about who I am and about the George Floyd mural. I believe that together we can really create change and make positive change in this world. And we have to stand up and speak up and use all our talents, whatever it is, artist, dancer, poet, writer. You need to stand up and speak against social injustice.
Thank you, Cadex. As I became more familiar with this story, I realized that I had to speak to a Black American. Listen to what Eric March, a Black activist from Philadelphia, has to say about the George Floyd mural in part 2 of this episode.